needed to get this bearing tapped out of there. And I should be able to do that by going through that slot there and that slot there and tapping through there because it allows me to get a firm purchase on the metal part of the seal. I just should be able to do that with a screwball driver. I should be able to do that by straddling my vise here. Appears to be moving. Well, moving on one side anyway. Not so much the other. There we go. Alright. So it's in there pretty straight. Kind of want to get it going a little bit. We're going to take this flat scraper and we're going to stick it right on top of here. And we're going to use that like our block of wood. You should have been able to hear that sound difference. That lets us know that we are where we need to be. The old one was flat to the surface in here. That's where we're at now. Okay, so now that we've got this put together, we can go ahead and reinstall it on this side of the saw here. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to lubricate that. You can lubricate it with a little bit of grease. You can lubricate it with some 2-stroke oil or regular motor oil. It doesn't matter. That way things will go in easily and less likely to roll a lip. And then we can insert it. And what I like to do is I like to rotate it as I'm sliding it on. Lessens the chances of the lip getting rolled over. Well, that is a nice firm fit around that shaft, so definitely the old seals were definitely worn out. Now we can slide that right back over. All right. There's that. Grab our screws again. Well, I can't wait to get this thing back together. I'm not going to rush it either. I really like this saw. And one of the things that really got me to liking this saw was the way it sounded. You know, I never heard a saw sound like that before until I got this one, you know. Everything else had a different sound to it than this one does. And I just thought it just sounded nice. So now I kind of wish that this side was set up the same way, but it's not. And this one I'm going to clamp up in the vise, and we are going to have to see how we can get that plucked out of there and how we're going to get that out of our way. All right, so this gear moves a lot easier than you think. I was able to stick my screwdriver under here and get under that first thread under there. I just kind of give my hand a little bump like that, and it just started taking off. So here we are. So remember the orientation of that? So basically, if you take a look at that, so there's your first thread there, and your last thread right there, right above it. And you see there's a lot of the top of it here, but there's hardly any down there. This shorter end is what goes down toward the crank. And you just bottom it out. So let's see if we can get some kind of a small screwdriver back behind it or something. And start getting that popped up out of there. Or we may be able to push down on one side and get the other side to kind of pop up. We're going to try a couple different things. And whatever works is whatever works. You can see it lifting, but it isn't quite ready to come popping out of there yet. Maybe. There we go. Here it comes. And we're just going to give them a little bit of love here. We're going to shoot a little bit of oil in there while we're right here. And I love these little bottles with a little needle end on it, just for this kind of stuff. And I think the wife got them on Amazon. All right. Make sure your seal's good and clean. Make sure the shaft is good and clean. And then we're going to take and we're going to lubricate the lip on this seal with our 2-stroke oil. All right, we're going to slide this over. And basically what this one's going to be a little more difficult, because basically what you're doing is you're sealing. I mean, this is taking the place of a bearing that would normally have its own seal, right? This is taking the place of that. And so the outside is sealing against the outer race. The lip is sealing against the inner race. And we've got to be careful with that. Use a lot of oil or grease on that to help prevent your lip from rolling, because the one thing, and it is the inside race there is slightly chamfered, which is great because I helped that lip on that seal to slide over it properly. And if it didn't have that, it just had a straight, sharp edge, and it's a good possibility that would roll. You can use like a stiff plastic, not soft plastic like a bag, but a stiff piece of plastic that you can still wrap around that shaft, and then slide your seal over top of that, and that'll help that lip seal form around that inner race, and then you just pull the plastic out once you get it installed. I gotta figure out some sort of sleeve I can put in there, and to get that seal to go over that inner race like it's supposed to. All right, so I found some just like packaging plastic. All right, so I grabbed some of that packaging plastic. This just happened to be a Brazen Stratton filter housing, and I just took and cut a section of that and rolled it up and slid it inside the seal, and then slid the seal over top of the shaft, And just to the point now where it's just getting started and it's starting to go in. So now I'm going to gently tap this the rest of the way and send it home. I should be able to slide this plastic out. There we go. And I think we're good. I think we're real good. All right. So, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's that piece of clear plastic, and that's what helped me get that seal over that inner part of the race without rolling the lip. So this will go into my little tool kits. This has become a tool now. Right. Got some good resistance now. It's not as easy to turn, and that's because of those seals gripping that saw or gripping the surfaces. And everything should be nicely sealed up now. And yes, I did leave the gasket in there, and if I remember right, this thing has quite a bit of squish. I think I've actually taken some numbers. I think, yeah, here we go. Husqvarna 44. I just took some numbers, and we have, so it's a full comp semi chisel. I've done a muffler mod on it and a spark plug gap to 30 thou. My squish is 50. There we go. See, compression is 155 psi. So for a small saw like this, that's about right. We could probably increase that by pulling out the gasket, but I'm not too worried about that right now. It might be for another day. Still got a bunch of stickers. My wife made them up for me. All right, so here we are back on the oil pump side. Time to put our oil pump drive gear on, and that has a good snug fit. So it grips that shaft just enough, but you don't have to have a special tool. Or at least in my case, I didn't have to have a special tool to get that thing off of there. I just kind of stuck a screwdriver under there and just give it a little pop in it, and it started to move. All right, so that's back into place now. All we have to do now is fish our hose back in. And our hose is in great shape, still soft, pliable. Let's get that in there. So this part of the hose, when you tighten these 3 screws down, it actually tightens and pushes down into here, into that area there, and creates a seal. It actually has the same shape as the hose. So the hose has to be lined up in a certain way for this to go back together properly and seal up. So you want this area in here to be clean also. Put it all back together. All right. Everything's set on there fine. Get our 3 little screws back. We'll get them in there. All right. Everything should be good to go there. While I'm right here, I want to check these crank bolts or case bolts to make sure if they're snug. And this is right where the crank is, so I got a little tweak out of that one. Got a little tweak out of that one. Got a little tweak out of that one. I got a little bit out of that one. I guess while we're right here, I want to check the jug, make sure that's okay too. All right, it's not bad. Not bad at all. All right, so we got the flywheel on. Let's go ahead and get our clutch assembly on. Put our sprocket drum back on. Alrighty, we're getting close. We are going to grease the clutch bearing. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, and if you're running a chainsaw, you should have one of these grease guns. This is for greasing the tip of your bar. And you take that same grease gun, and not all saws. This is the first saw I've come across, but I've heard about saws that have a grease port right on the end of their crank that feeds the bearing for this clutch sprocket, right? So you just take that grease gun and you put it in there and you give it a pump or two. You don't need it. Let's put a little bit of fuel in here. That should be enough. All right, guys. Let's see what we got here. Got our throttle lock on. We got our choke on. Ooh, pretty good compression. There it goes. She popped off a little bit. There we go. Come on now. Yep. Definitely needs some tuning. Definitely needs some tuning. It needs some TLC. I ran it a few good years, no issues. So, but there we are. I'll bar this thing up maybe tomorrow. And we'll go out there and run it into the wood, see how she acts there. But that's how I replaced the crank seals on a Husqvarna 44 Rancher with a 16-inch bar. And it took me a little while to find those seals because, well, they just don't, I don't know if they just don't make them anymore and they're just new old stock out there is all that's left or what, but it took me a little while to find them. So there we go, guys. The old school white top Husqvarna 44 new crank seals. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. If so, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, send me some comments, let me know what you think. Be kind and help people when you can.